Go search. Go, mate.
Welcome to Takeover Australia, Takeover TV. We're back here for our very first Ultimate Footy Wrap. We're going to look at what's been a pretty big week in footy. A lot of strange, a lot of bizarre things going on. There's the usual play it here, there and everywhere. Lots of games, some strange results. We've just come off the back of Richmond playing themselves back into form through the good fortune of being handed Melbourne as their opponent this week. And we've got one more game to come tonight. It'll be starting fairly shortly, the Giants and the Hawks. I'm Sergio Paradise, and joining me tonight to go through the whole week in footy, it's the great Mark Finey Fine. Finey, welcome.
How are you, mate? I tell you what, I am so pleased I'm here with you because the big story, the big footy story of the week happened at Flemington yesterday.
Yeah.
When Dennis Pagan's first runner ran third in a listed race at 100 to 1.
At 100 to 1. Oh, gee, there would have been a few old footy fans have a piece of that too, surely.
Yeah, it only paid $10 a place, so I think it was what do they call it? A natural under.
A natural under. So what's has he got a whole bunch of them in training or in work?
He's got 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 5 of them in training, as you'd expect, because, you know, he started off as a great under-19s coach. He's got some good 2-year-olds. And
he knows how to develop some talent. Yeah,
and apparently what he's doing is he's got this idea with horse racing. He wants to clear all the other horses out and just do Pagan's paddock for his horse, but the other horses are not agreeing at this stage.
Can't see that. Maybe the wide expanses of Flemington, but not at Moonee Valley so much.
No, but
now
this has been. How about this for a weekend of footy? I reckon this is the weekend we look back and we say. Firstly, I think this is the weekend we look back and we say, yeah, Saturday night, Saturday 4th of July. That's the night that Brisbane and the Bulldogs staked their claim, and to me, they were both super impressive in different ways.
They were, especially I watched the Lions game, and they were good. They, I mean, are they the real deal? I mean, they're certainly pressing their claims. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see them go all the way this year.
They've got such a lively, dangerous forward line. We know their midfield.
Yeah,
ticks along nicely, doesn't it? It's not just Lachie Neale and Zorko when he's fit. McCluggage, very good player.
Yeah.
You know, the boy from Gold Coast via Adelaide Lions, consistent performer.
Yep.
They've got a beautiful back line. Andrews, super. Gardner, reliable. And the best thing about them is from the day he turned up, the day Fagan turned up, that club has played happy football. It's like nobody's got that weight of the world on their shoulders that you often get with a lower team.
Yeah,
they love to play.
Coaching and new coaches and even older coaches. But yeah, ever since he got there, he's just breathed new life into those players. And I was watching the game last night. I was thinking, do you reckon right now, just to change clubs, do you reckon Carlton would be happy to have Mitch Robinson back the way he's been going the last year or two?
He was always lively, wasn't he?
Always. But he's just what I reckon they need at the moment, Carlton.
Anytime St Kilda has played against a team that he's in, he's a factor.
Yeah.
And I tried to sort of work out, look, I know, I've interviewed Mitch, and even before he got drafted, look, it was known that he had, ADD, he had some, you know, he had some of those sort of issues that young people have. I mean, but they factored that all in and still said he was great. And he left Carlton at a time when they were a dispirited mob and he had as much go about him as half the team. And they got rid of him. It was like, you know what? It's just been too much effort with you, mate.
Yeah. See, in my day, they call that short attention span. They've got better descriptions of it these days. But he's one of those guys in a physical sense too that, like, sort of like whenever you train with him and whenever you go to tackle him or touch him at training, you'd somehow just cop an inadvertent pointy elbow. Right. There's always those guys usually, with red hair like he's got and with point elbows. And
they're all angles, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all angles.
Just, you know, it's all and the good thing about those guys, the wiry, strong ones, is they play the longest, best football because, and I'm not just saying because of Michael Tuck, because weight is in the end what kills footballers as they get older.
Yeah.
That's what causes the soft tissue injuries and you never recover. But it's the wiry ones. Yeah, old mate Kevin Bartlett.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the ones that last forever.
Mm.
And I tell you, I watched the doggies, and in a different way, Serge, super impressive because at the start of the year, their improvement was going to be based on 2 or 3 factors. Factor number 1, Tim English was ready to explode. Now, his first 2 games, he got soundly beaten, as did his team. Oh, he's playing well now. He cruises across that ground. He's got a beautiful pair of hands. He's just growing in stature.
He just looks like a natural footballer, doesn't he?
He reminds me of another blonde. He really reminds me of Scotty Wind because you see, Scotty Wind just arrived at the pack, but not to spoil, not to fall into the pack like 9 out of 10 ruckmen do. He arrived there to mark the ball, and that's what English does. He's actually a ball player. Oh, it's sort of spooky to me how, and he's beautifully spoken, young English. He's really good. So the other improvement was going to come with Bruce and Keith.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people said they recruited them for key position height. I thought they recruited them because they were trying to get all the members of the Caulfield Lawn Bowls Club to play for them. Bruce, Keith, Kevin, Eileen, Nora.
All of them.
But seriously, now he's not going to kick 6 goals every week.
I was always a bit of a rap for Josh Bruce at St Kilda, though. I thought he could play. He's not going to. I mean, there's no such thing as a 100-goal full forward these days, but he's never going to be a superstar. But he's a good, honest forward footballer.
He's up for a hard shift of work, even if he doesn't kick goals. He'll work up to the wing. Now, I don't think he's been fully fit this year. Just been restricted a bit. I think and I don't know whether he'll ever get over this. He started having back problems at St Kilda, which is always a worry. But he showed his real value, obviously, on Saturday night. And they had something happen, and I believe they said this was going to happen pre-season. He played 1 game, and then he's been out for 81 days and 4 weeks. I'm telling you, Eastonwood was the best I've seen him since 2016. He was flying in the air again. Now, he is such an asset because he can spoil every aerial contest because he's so adept at flying. He's really like Jeremy Howe, and we know how good he is. So that's big pluses. They won without Lockie Hunter, comes back next week, followed by Dunkley, then Norton, and Bailey Smith only played 5 minutes. I'm bullish about them again. And
Bontempelli was well held last night.
Well held. Yep, well held. It's funny that he was well held by the bloke from that Passed Away movie. But still, who am I to question that McDonald is actually being played by Tom Hanks this season?
It was a couple of good wins, and earlier in the weekend, your mob, the Saints, didn't have much trouble getting past Carlton, the hapless Carlton. So they looked good, the Saints, the other night. They actually won.
They actually won sort of like the good teams do, which I don't like. I would have preferred they finished the game off and 35 points up halfway through the last quarter. Just if you hit the next 3 goals, that makes a big difference to your percentage. But the good news for the Saints, a few things. Max King, he's not set the world on fire, but gee, those 5 games, I love everything he can do on the ground, in the air. He's fast. I like him. Nick Caulfield, who was a top 10 draft pick, has come of age a bit. And look, the disappointment is Hanbury because I think he's still very important to that team. But all in all, most players have surprised me. Ben Long.
I'm a rap for Ben Long. I've seen him early in the season, that preseason game, but he can genuinely play.
And, I know Brett a bit, so I get to speak to. I haven't this year actually because of COVID, but I spoke to him a bit away from the club last year. And about round 6 last year, he's assistant coach, and we were at a party for a mutual friend, And he's talking about players and who's long-term. Now, this guy had not played a single game at St Kilda, and I didn't think was even close to getting game. He said, Jonathan Marshall played 150 for the club. I said, you're joking. He said, Mark, he's the fastest player on the list. With a full pre-season next year, he'll be the strongest, and he just needs his confidence. You know, he had some issues and went back to WA.
Yep.
He's really handy because he's a pressure forward. You know, it's one thing getting tackled by the Richmond small guys. Yeah, they put a lot of pressure on. It's another thing when the guy tackling you 6'4", 95 kilos of muscle.
And you're down from 40 metres behind you.
It can hurt. That's really his job, to mow people down.
Exactly.
He's a good mower. So there's some good signs.
There is some good signs. You talk about Max King, and you know, I was watching the Gold Coast last night, and you know they're starting to make it already when the commentators are already saying which King is going to be the better one, Max or Ben. Not to put too much pressure on these 18-year-olds.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
They're a reasonable pair of players.
Have you got the footy on at the moment?
I do.
I just forgot something, and I remember now. You're going to have to hang on a second. I'm going to have to get a Panadol because I hate when these two teams play. Yeah. Neither of them wear a clash jumper. And 15 minutes into a Hawthorn GWS game, I start to not know who's who. You watch these colours blend. I mean, they're just not good. See that square down the bottom?
I was about to say, especially in that wide shot.
Yeah, it gets really annoying, this clash. There's a good reason, Serge.
Yeah.
Why Holden, and I know Holden doesn't exist anymore. BMW don't do cars in brown, yellow, and ochre, and you know there's a reason why. Oh boy,
I'm just looking at that now. Exactly. Yeah. The orange and the yellow and brown. They just. Yeah. Why can't the Giants wear a white jumper for this game?
Yeah, it's really. This has happened before with this game. People go, "Oh, it's all right." When they watch it for 2 minutes, wait till you watch 2 quarters of this, people. You're not going to enjoy it. But I want to say something about Carlton. I've got a prediction of what's going to happen next week to Carlton.
Yeah.
One of their players, and it's going to come as a shock to people if they're not been following footy much this year. I'm predicting that the NAB Rising Star will get omitted next week. Now, or the Rising Star. Now, he won't be omitted. He'll be managed, of course. But Walsh.
Struggling?
Look, I've got to be honest. I don't think he's a bad footballer, but I think his great asset last year was his ability to bring what he did at junior level to senior level, and that's a lot of the ball. But there's nothing extraordinary about him. He's not fast. He's not physically strong, so he's not really an inside mid or outside mid. He doesn't hit the scoreboard. Last year in 22 games, he kicked 6 goals. This year in 5 games, he's kicked 1 behind.
Yeah, he's certainly not damaging. A damaging player at this stage of his career.
His possession stats are way down, even factoring in the shorter quarters. His tackling last year was quite good. This year, he's had 7 tackles in 5 games. And unfortunately, on Thursday night, he let Nick Caulfield walk through him. It was a bit embarrassing. Resulted in that goal to Jade Gresham. And probably for me, the most damning thing why he might be in a bit of trouble, when Cripps went forward in the second half, they didn't really call on him to get into the centre square for the centre work. And the final nail in his coffin, his disposal efficiency this year is 59.8. That ranked him last of all Carlton midfielders. And I actually was checking it up. And I couldn't find a midfielder in the AFL with worse disposal than he does at 59.8.
What do you put it down to? The difficult second album?
Look, as I said, when Bryce Gibbs came to football, he also was able to get a lot of touches. And in the end, the fact that there was nothing that sets him apart means that they they get passed quickly by other players. So people say, hang on, we should drop Sam Petreski-Seaton because he's not getting the ball. But Petreski-Seaton is extremely quick, and if he starts finding some form, the ball he gets will be damaging.
Yeah.
And Sam Walsh has to quickly work on something that makes him not just a run-of-the-mill player. In his whole career, he's only taken 3 contested marks. Now, that he doesn't have to take contested marks, but if you keep going at 59.8%, you can't play as a receiver either.
Yeah, you've got to have that string to your bow.
Yeah, so for Sam Walsh, being a run machine, knocking up, getting possession, I don't think he'll do it. And the good thing is for him as a footballer is he's courageous. He's had a flying start to his career because he has won that Rising Star. So I reckon he just goes away and tries to have a commodity that makes him great. And that might be, what he might become, because there's a player playing in this game that is exactly the same as him. And I reckon he's actually not AFL worthy. But for a couple of years, Tom Scully was the fittest player in the comp.
He was indeed.
And that was an asset. I now don't believe, because he's no longer that, I don't believe he's of any particular use to Hawthorn other than, just getting a few possessions. But, he's got credits and runs in the bank, so they play him, I guess. But if Sam Walsh can be that super, super fit player, when we go back to longer quarters, he could have a great weapon there.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, players sort of can go past a young player like that, like Sam Walsh. But also, playing in the big league like this is, they can work him out too. They can work out players and go, what's his place? What's the key to him? Yeah, he gets plenty of the footy and he runs well, but he's not that quick. He's not physically strong, and his kicking's not particularly damaging. So you can work him out. You can either tag him or just work him out at stoppages. And I think that's probably half the reason that he struggled this year.
Yeah. I mean, last year he kicked 6-13. He's got to be deadly in front of goal. So there are players who their bankable commodities. They don't get a lot of the ball, but when they do get that shot at goal, they'll nail it.
Mm. Now you mentioned how Easton Wood sort of came back to form last night, and you'd love to see him do that. Watching the Saints game too the other night, you just remind me of their skipper Geary. Didn't he have a day out? And he looked for the first time this year. Yeah, he's fit and he's back and he's ready to play footy, and he was enjoying himself out there. Yeah. He had one of those rare nights where he had it on a string in the forward line, but he just looked back in town.
Yeah, people underestimate Jaron a bit because he's been at the club during a poor period, and when you're a defender during a poor period, he can be under siege there a lot, and that's how he's played all his football. He is, when fit, there's no better one-on-one competitor. So, if the ball's him and opponent in the air or going for the ball, as long as he's not outsized or whatever, he's a super competitor in breaking even and making sure his opponent doesn't skin him. And loved at the club, interesting choice as captain when selected, but well loved at the club. And sometimes, like with a Nick Maxwell, and as the club gets better, they almost love doing it for him. And if he can just maybe hang on this year and next year as skipper, he might get to captain them in a final or two, and that would be a great return for a guy that started. Sharon was on the rookie list, and I think he might have been on it twice.
And he would surely, if that's the case, he would surely be the only player in history who's been on the rookie list twice and then captained the club, gone on to captain the club.
I mean, there've been some good cases of guys that have been on rookie lists, and Andrew Thompson was on 3 supplementary lists. Yeah. But you're right, captaining the club, that's another thing altogether, isn't it?
That is. It is indeed.
Still, Sandilands came off a rookie list. Look, there's been some real rookie lists, but to get dropped back on it again, that's something else.
Now, we mentioned Brisbane. We reckon they're the real deal. What did you make of Port?
Well, I sort of felt that, look, they looked terrible at half time, didn't they?
They did.
And I guess they showed a little bit in the second half, a bit of pride was restored. But when you're up like that, and to be honest, it's a great effort. I mean, they're in Queensland doing this, where Brisbane's doing it at home.
Yeah.
And I just felt a long way from home when it finally doesn't happen. It's not a shock to me that it didn't happen convincingly, in a meaningful way. But they go back to Adelaide next week or the week after.
Reset, and they could,
Yeah. And Charlie Dixon is surprisingly good this year. That makes a big difference. They didn't roll the dice. They took their cuts last year and said, we're going to go and get some good youngsters in the draft and build on them. And, Rosie and Butters, they are good. And Dersma, who's injured. So even though I find their president outrageously hubris-stricken and so quick to open his mouth and offer advice, and 2 minutes into a season of his first year as president of the club, there was an incident, I think, with Collingwood or something, and because he's on a TV show, he's asked about it, and he goes, "It just wouldn't happen at my club that you've been president of for 2 days."
Yeah.
Good on you, mate. Well, wait, because it will happen and things will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And invariably they do, don't they?
They do. Speaking of which, Essendon beating Collingwood. That was an interesting game the other night.
I thought I dreamt that. Did that really happen?
That really occurred.
After 3 goals straight to nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that was to me.
And Collingwood didn't kick a goal in the second or third quarter.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Last quarter, yeah.
I did not see that coming because, just on paper, but it didn't play out like this at all. When you don't have, I don't think they've got a great midfield, but when you don't have Heppel and Zach Merritt, and I actually thought Phillips coming in was an improvement because I don't mind Andrew Phillips, but really, things they in Melbourne have this game that's been not played. And before this week, I thought, you know what, I reckon we might get to round 14 and just forget about it.
Yeah.
Gil will ring up the clubs and go, you know what, I don't really have a slot for you. How about you take your deposit back and it's like a rental.
Just looked at next year, yeah.
Yeah, but I dipped my lid to them, and I've got to say that Andrew McGrath's coming of age.
And on the other side, Harakis has still been struggling for the whole season.
But he was fantastic this week. He got a possession in the first quarter and one in the last quarter. That's 2. And that's twice as many as Cox.
The opening 5 minutes of the game, I think the disposal count between the two teams was like 27-3.
It got 47-9.
47-9. Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
And Collingwood kicked the first 3 goals. It was going to be how far?
Yeah.
It was one of those good wins. I mean, you never like to see either of those teams win, but when one of them has to, like it or not, you go to Essendon, and they were pretty good the other night, and they really deserved that win.
Bloody oath. And I mean, clever coaching. Worsfold activating the goalkeeper. He ran up. He said the goal umpire. He goes, "Now, Rob, we need you now. Next one that's going through the goals. Put your body on."
Yeah, just block it. Where?
West Coast. He stood there. He stood there. And I don't know if you played a lot of cricket, Sue, but sometimes you get lower order batsmen from the other team, and I used to captain, and I'd bring my fast bowlers on. I'd say, you can get him out or get him to the dentist, either way, because this guy, the guy, he's just, he's a deer in the headlights. I said, keep it up to him. We're not playing for sheep stations here. That bloke watched that ball coming, and he did not duck. Why did he? It's like, it's going to hit me. It's going to hit me. It hit me.
But then you watch the replay, and I was yelling at the TV because you can see where the ball was coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back straight into the goalpost instead of taking one step backwards to give yourself a proper look at where the goal line was. It was
here in the headlights.
Scenario. Here in the headlights. Absolutely.
It's why Carey took that mark in that game.
Yes. Yeah.
Here's the ball. I'm mesmerised.
Yeah, it's right there. And what am I going to do? I don't have time to make a decision. I'll just let the body act naturally.
Yeah, that's right. So were you surprised, given the contentious nature of the decision and the close score at that time, that they only had one or two looks at the replay and made a quick decision?
Yeah, it always seems to be the real contentious ones that they make the quick decisions on. It's the obvious ones that they seem to stew on forever and a day,
Did you see the one today at the MCG where Arts almost kicked his first goal?
I didn't. I was in the car when that was occurring, but they did seem to go on that for quite a while. And didn't the ball hit the post, but they couldn't work out whether it had or not?
Yeah, he backheeled it. There was a hand in there, and then it might have touched the post. It was as complicated as the spelling of the kid's name. Yeah. But in the end, I think the right decision was made, even though it took 14 replays to come to the conclusion.
So I think a backheel should never be a goal.
Certainly shouldn't have been goal of the year.
No.
I spoke to Lloydie about that, and I said, you know what? Do you think you should? And I asked him this. Do you think you should have won goal of the year? He goes, it was a bit of a surprise. I said, you know what? Any goal that I could kick shouldn't be goal of the year, let alone any goal that a racehorse could kick.
Yeah. and kicked by a bloke who's actually kicked 800 pretty good goals.
That's right. He's one of the most beautiful kicks I've ever seen. So how often did you sort of practice dropping the ball between your legs and backheeling it?
It wasn't exactly a Dacosian, roll around from the flank. Now, a couple of other games that just sort of came and went without much, to do was West Coast defeating Sydney and Freo defeating Adelaide.
I did watch West Coast Sydney, and for the good news for them is Yo, who's been surprisingly disappointing, was back to his very good Yo when he's playing well. Mm. Of course, a bit of a highlight in that game was that mark by Barras.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, and you'll be able to have this quick chat with me. He's a big boy, Barras. He's sort of built like McGovern.
Yep.
He's a solid lad. Now, we've had many brilliant aerialists in the game, and we've got some at the moment. But I was trying to remember, who are the big men that could get off the ground? Like the really big men. And
Zasto, would you call him?
No, you see, not Buzz. No. I was thinking maybe Phil Baker.
Yeah.
But I want something even sturdier than Phil. I know one that definitely could, and it's amazing, but Cowboy Kevin Neal used to get off ground and take some speckies. I was thinking of Grenville Dietrich at North Adelaide.
Yeah.
And he actually, he wasn't overweight. He just had a gut.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. But I got a demon. I got a Melbourne player.
Oh, let me think.
Also, a barrel-type body could definitely get off the ground.
Barrel-type body?
Yeah.
Not Nathan Carroll. He never even marked it over his head.
Oh, I know. I'm good mates with Nathan. We went out a few times on Saturday night. Well, we sort of did because we never got out of his. He lived around Paran.
Yeah.
And he had a big mirror in the living area. It was like a canary. You couldn't walk past it.
without picking at his own reflection. You know?
Yeah, he'd catch his reflection just in the corner of his eye, and he'd turn around and he'd go, "Finally, who is that good-looking rooster?"
So who's the demon with a gut who could get on?
Go back many years, Ray Biffin.
Oh, Ray Biffin.
Yeah,
I remember him taking many big grabs. Very, very strong.
Down. Yeah, he did take some good grabs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Barras, I think Dawson was underneath him.
Right. Okay.
You know, Dawson started the game 6'2". He's now 5'11". That's a big boy on your back.
That is indeed.
Yeah.
Now, did you see any of Freo in Adelaide today? I was at junior footy today. So
I did. I watched the whole game because you know that game was shown live into primetime America on one of their sports networks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was Freo Adelaide. But
yeah, because they're now confused by the rules. From what they gathered, one team tries to kick the ball through the big sticks and the other one tries to kick it through the small part.
The little ones on the other side, yeah.
So that didn't make a lot of sense to them. And they also couldn't understand why one of the teams, when the ball was in the air, they caught it, and the other one, when the ball was in the air, it would go sliding through their hands.
Oh, drop it, see, these are the reasons that Australian rules football is so difficult to explain to people when you see those sort of examples from both of those. Now, a few other things. I mean, we saw Richmond beat Melbourne today, as I said at the top, that the AFL, they look after the Tigers. I think they deliberately gave them Melbourne this week to play themselves back into form, and they certainly did that. Although Melbourne were a bit better than normal, particularly for a side that has no forwards, no forward line, and no apparent plan to get it to that non-existent forward line.
So much better this week, though, the endeavour.
Yeah, it was.
So much better. You almost felt sorry for their lack of reward, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly wasn't expecting them to come home in that last quarter, so we'll look at that and we'll see how they go against the Hawks next week. Now, just a few, before we start wrapping things up finally, there's a few things we should look at this week. The papers are starting to say that Collingwood have just had a week from hell. Now, firstly, the steel side bottom issue, lately Jordan De Goey, everything else in between. How are the Pies travelling?
First class. I mean, how lucky that they are leaving town. Because in the normal course of events, seriously, with the normal crowd involved, if this was any other time, this would be like National Revenge Week. And you can say what you want about Eddie. I'm nowhere near as critical of him as other people are, because that's what I want from my president. I don't want my president to have some global view of the world or football. I want my president of my club to see things only from my club's perspective, because that's what he's there for. So I like that in him.
Tooth and nail, just
and standing behind side bottom when obviously, what he was saying didn't really add up after, wanting to know the nitty-gritty of Jack Stephen and etc. But that's okay. If you don't like the fact that I'm contradicted myself, then don't buy a Collingwood membership. Oh, you don't barrack for Collingwood, so stuff you. Who cares? Yeah. But on top of it, with Jordan De Goey, that would have been a 1-2 blow that I think even Eddie might have, ducked if he could. So, I
mean, it's 5 years old, these accusations, but I mean, nobody from any footy club likes to see the name of a player and the phrase sexual assault in the same headline, whether it's 5 years old, whether it's true, whether it's not true. It's just especially these days, it's just an ugly thing to be seeing at any stage.
Yeah, and quite rightly, and St Kilda were having a bad run of this as well. Quite rightly, footballers are held to a high standard. Absolutely, they should be. They are heroes. And whilst at the time when St Kilda were under siege, I took umbrage at Caroline Wilson's position, I did that as a St Kilda supporter. Yeah. But I also had cause to reflect as the father of two girls, and applauded her for probing and asking not what happened, but what are you doing about it in the future? Now, I think Collingwood's got a bit of a track record of being very slow on the uptake. Now, I'm certainly not talking about anything about Jordan De Goey because that's not even established or proved. But, it's having the most supporters and the most doubloons in the bank does not absolve you from improving your culture at your club.
Yeah.
And I think it might be time to have a little look in the mirror and say
go around to Carol's place and borrow his, perhaps.
Yeah, and when I say look in the mirror, I'm not talking about Eddie. I'm not even talking about any individual players. I'm talking about all of them because they've all got wives and girlfriends, and they've also got mates. They shouldn't be drinking till 7:30 in the morning. That sort of stuff's that's not right.
No, especially not these days, and especially not this season. So many things can go wrong this season. They've just, as you say, they've got to be held accountable to an even higher standard of behaviour than is expected. And so I quite understand why people and we don't get to see behind those closed doors at Collingwood. And I wouldn't be at all surprised that even though Eddie publicly has stood up for Steele Sidebottom, who is a fantastic player and one of the good blokes of footy, I wouldn't mind betting that you would have seen the paint blistering off the walls inside that Collingwood HQ just last week. Because if you've ever seen Eddie deliver a spray, if you've ever copped a spray from Eddie, and many a Collingwood player has over the years, and many of his associates in the media have as well, I reckon I'll Steele might have copped one this week. No doubt about that.
The one I wanted, Serge, I wanted Eddie just to say one thing.
Yep.
A line he used to love trotting out. Nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember being at
which is not true, by the way. That is completely untrue, but from a football sense it might be.
Yeah, from football. So, although I must admit, I've been at the tunnel with Eddie after that time. It's going back a couple of decades, mind you.
Yeah.
And some good things did happen.
Absolutely. But we're not footballers, and neither is Eddie.
No, exactly.
I would ask this.
Yeah.
I know we're getting a bit older, and it's midweek. You've had a few to drink. Okay. You think, I'm going to go over to Wellesley's place. First of all, why did Wellesley? Yeah, no worries. I'm happy to stay up all night with you drinking. If one of my mates came and they're capable of doing it, and it's happened in the past. If I had a mate come here stonkered at 2:30 in the morning and say, "Do you want to have a drink?" You know what? Could say my wife would kick you out, but I'm going to kick you out. Piss off.
Yeah. You just pretend you didn't hear the doorbell. You just
correct. You really would.
Off, you draw the curtains.
That's one.
Now
the other thing is, you've had a skinful. And I don't know Steele's marital situation with his single girlfriend or whatever, but you want to go to a nightclub or a pub or something. Now, in these COVID times, you can't do it. But you don't go over to Daniel Wells's house. I felt a bit frisky, Wellsy. No wonder Wellesley told him the back door was the duddy door.
Yeah, what do you got in the fridge, Wellesley? Yeah.
And by the way, why didn't he go back into the house after he went through the wrong door? You know why? Because Wellesley pulled it up and locked it.
Now, just finally, the hubs. What do you make of the hubs?
The hubs.
I mean, they start off hubs. Now they're being called super hubs.
Yeah. It's like models.
Yeah.
Have you ever met a bloke that said, I went out the other night and I got talking to this model? They're all supermodels.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah,
to blokes like us, models are supermodels. They're about as attainable,
Yeah. I was talking to a model. Oh, supermodel? No, actually, she's the model for when the grey nomads in front of a caravan. But there was a bit of hub lotto going on, and it played itself out on social media. So St Kilda are wrapped because they've got Noosa.
Isn't that just appropriate? I mean, Noosa has got Saints Disco written all over it.
The problem is they're at the RACV club in Noosa.
Oh, that's just a bit out of town, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've never been to Noosa, but I've been to RACV clubs.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have to put on a collared shirt to go to dinner and show their membership. And then, like, the RACV club in Melbourne's got a beautiful pool room. And I just can't see Jakey Yellow following the rules up in the pool room because it's quite strict, and you've got to be sort of a little bit demure. So St Kilda players are boasting, yeah, we're going to Noosa, and then they start getting into Hawthorn players. There's a few, Jared Ruffhead and obviously Shane Savage, Bradley Hill, etc. So a lot of mates at Hawthorn, because Hawthorn are going to like the Olympic Village in the west of Sydney or something.
Yeah.
And they were sort of making some comments about, oh, you'll love it there. It's fantastic. There's a takeaway joint, one takeaway, and they've showed pictures of.
And there's an apartment block that's fallen apart, and the residents aren't allowed to live in it.
Yeah, they were texting or Instagramming pictures of North Korea.
Examples of brutalist communist architecture.
Yeah, and then Hawthorn said, a couple of the Hawthorn blokes go, this is to St Kilda, to the St Kilda guys. Yeah, you'll turn Noosa from a tourist capital into a dead set no-go zone like Seaford in about 3 days. You'll be all wanting to go back to Moorabbin. It's too far.
Well, on that note, Finey, we might bring this footy
I've got one last thing to say on the search.
Yeah.
We started with a horse racing gun. I'm glad TAB's reopened because I don't bet, I don't have any accounts or whatever, but I wandered down to the TAB.
Yeah.
And you've got to give your phone number and sign in when you go in there.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, there's this urger, there's this bloke who goes to that same tote, and he owes me, and he always avoids me. He owes me $50.
Yeah.
And I saw his name and phone number on the list. I wrote his phone number down. He's going to call for me tomorrow morning.
Nicely done.
I think what a call, but who cares?
What's that?
I don't think that's what the list is for.
Not to hunt down creditors.
I said to the guy behind the jump, I said, is that Big Brian that comes here? He goes, yeah. And I just memorised the number and quickly ran over him on the losing ticket, wrote it on the back of the ticket.
Give him a ring tomorrow and say it's Martin King from A Current Affair. We need to talk to you about $50.
You know what I could do? I could ring up and say I'm a health officer and there's been a COVID outbreak, and could he please come down to the it's in South Yarra, can he come down to the doctor's clinic down there and bring $50 with him?
Well, good luck with that, Finey.
Yeah, well, Serge, love catching up with you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you again next week on Takeover. Might watch a bit of footy and recap the week has gone by. I mean, with all these hubs and super hubs and hubba hubs going, who knows what's going to be happening this time next week? Yeah, well, hopefully Victorians, hopefully we're not cast completely, they hate us in the rest of Australia, so hopefully we're allowed to broadcast. Yeah. All right. Good on you, mate. See you, mate. See you, buddy.